the lengths of New Delhi. And viewers, on your screens right now is the QR code that you can scan to get all the expert analysis, the perspectives, the big interviews and news that matter to the global India. But first up, the headlines.
India has consistently and strongly raised with the Bangladesh government the threats and targeted attacks on Hindus and other minorities.
Is Bangladesh descending into more chaos with more details emerging on minority crackdown and India's repeated reminders to Dhaka that protection of minorities is the government's duty. There are concerns that Bangladesh may now be inching further away from its democratic fabric. Has Syria become the latest flashpoint in West Asia? A day after the Lebanon ceasefire, a depleted Hezbollah which supports the Assad government faced the strongest attack in 4 years from Syrian rebels. The stage is set for Trump 2.0's West Asia policy that could see another face-off with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Instability in Pakistan drags on as former Prime Minister Imran Khan's popularity remains intact. Thousands of PTI supporters answered his clarion call, even as his party ruled Khyber Pakhtunkhwa saw fresh sectarian violence. The question remains, how long will Shahbaz Sharif last? As Donald Trump completes his dream team of China hawks, we decode what this will mean for New Delhi. A fresh boost to decoupling from China could very well be on the anvil. And Xi Jinping's military purge continues after 2 former and 1 sitting defense minister. It's now the turn of Naval Commander Mao Hua to face probe for graft. All is not well as Xi Jinping's pet project BRI is also facing resistance from more and more countries. Big story this week is the latest that's unfolding in Bangladesh. Once the pride of South Asia, Bangladesh may well now be at a point of possibly no return, and that looks like it may be inching closer towards Pakistan. And why do I say that? Well, there are now growing threats of Islamization. Dhaka is also now sinking into political violence. There's sectarian tensions and there is growing economic instability. It seems former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's ouster in August was a sign of things to in fact unravel. And since then, minority religious organizations like ISKCON have been labeled fundamentalists and subject to facile investigations. The Ahmadiyas are also not being spared, from the country's courts to its bureaucracy and even the police and army. All walks of government machinery are now seeing more and more extreme or even Islamist elements now coming in. What started as a student protest is now dismantling Bangladesh. That's what's happening. Its democracy is pretty much crumbling. And Sheikh Hasina has finally spoken out in the face of rising authoritarianism. Sheikh Hasina condemned the arrest of the Hindu priest, Chinmay Krishnadas Brahmachari, calling it part of a broader pattern of anarchic activities and attacks on religious minorities. The priest's arrest has also struck a nerve with the international community, the latest one being British Conservative MP Bob Blackman. He has raised this issue of violence against Hindus in Bangladesh in the UK Parliament on Wednesday.
We have a responsibility because we enable Bangladesh to be free and independent. Now, whatever the change of government has been in Bangladesh, it cannot be acceptable that religious minorities are persecuted in this way.
Okay, now the political climate is changing rapidly, and with Jamaat-e-Islami, a once banned Islamist party, now issuing statement on the interim government's behalf, the future of Dhaka's secular ideals is now increasingly becoming uncertain.
আমরা শুধু ইসকন না, আমরা বলেছি জাতীয় স্বার্থের বিরুদ্ধে যারাই যাবে তাদের ব্যাপারে পদক্ষেপ নিতে হবে।
Now, even more troubling is the meeting that took place between Mohammed Yunus and the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. Who is that? That's Karim Khan. Well, Karim Khan himself is a controversial figure. In fact, he has some very, very checkered past. A female lawyer working for Khan was allegedly subjected to sexual advances by him. And there's been, in fact, an inquiry that's taking place against him. And after these allegations made global headlines, Khan now finds himself subject of an extreme and a very long inquiry. Now, there's more, in fact. Khan met Yunus at the very same Jamuna State Guest House on Wednesday as Jamaat's senior leadership did on Thursday as well. Okay, now this raises some very uncomfortable questions. Does he, in fact, tacitly support the atrocities that are being committed against Bangladesh's minorities? It's not just about the Hindus, it's about the Ahmadiyas, it's about the Christians, it's about the Buddhists. And is he turning a blind eye to the rising tide of extremism that's engulfing Bangladesh? What was once a nation of hope is now facing the harsh reality of economic collapse. Daily goods are now becoming expensive. Governments now not being able to ensure law and order. And that impacts the economy, that impacts its future, which is pretty much hanging by a thread with no prospect of an electoral timeline being offered to its citizens. And amidst all the chaos, Mohammed Yunus, once the West's blue-eyed boy, is now facing stark criticism, with President-elect Donald Trump condemning the violence on his campaign trail. The question now is whether Bangladesh can claw its way back from this, from the brink. As the sands of time slip away, the nation's future is now becoming clearer. From progress, it's become peril, and from democracy, it's becoming disaster. The road ahead is uncertain, but one thing is clear: Bangladesh's fight for its soul is far from over. Okay, shifting focus now to the first wide-angle story on the show. After months of fighting with Israel and losing almost its entire leadership, Hezbollah has weakened considerably, and with it, the Iranian leadership. And that's in fact very clear, not just in Israel, but and not just in Lebanon and Gaza, where a ceasefire is now in force, but also in Syria, where rebel forces launched a very surprise attack on Bashar al-Assad's government, significantly weakened due to a year-long battle that has taken place, where in fact Hezbollah pulled out its troops and fighters from Syria to Lebanon. And Hezbollah and Iran were fighting alongside Syrian government in the past, and they continue to do so. Rebels from various factions came together for an anti-regime operation to close in on Syria's second largest city. Which one's that? Aleppo. Once the heart of Syria's uprising in 2011, Aleppo has now been ground zero for both sides, destroyed, divided, and desperate for peace. Well, it's not happening. For the last 8 years, Assad's government and Iran's proxies have been controlling the city. It is clear rebels are using a vacuum that's been left behind by a weakened Hezbollah to make deep advances inside Syria. And as Trump takes over, Syria could be the next battleground in the Middle East and could become another front between Russia and Western forces. Russia backs Assad and backs the Assad regime and is supporting the bombing post the surprise attack on Aleppo. If Assad loses control of Aleppo and the northwest, it could tip the balance not just in Syria but across West Asia. The shifting sands of Syria threaten to reshape the entire region, from Lebanon to Iraq and of course to beyond. Focus now to the top voice joining us on the broadcast. Faysal Hamsa, Senior Advisor to Minister of Investment, Government of Saudi Arabia, joining me live from Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. In fact, Mr. Hamsa, thanks much for taking out the time speaking to me on India Ascents. And there's in fact a lot to talk about. You're trying, and your government is trying, to get in big ticket investments. Let me start by asking you about that. The Global Supply Chain Resilience Initiative that your government is really trying to now work on. How does that get and align with Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030?
Right. So I'll take the question in two parts. First of all, the Global Supply Chain Resilience Initiative, which we call GSRI, GSCRI, was launched in late 2020 at a time when global supply chains were significantly disrupted. So it's a forward-looking program meant to plug the kingdom into global supply chains and offer manufacturers a site to produce from, to target significant portions of the globe. We have four main objectives in the GSRI program. Number one is to target large-scale export-oriented manufacturing. Second one is to increase supply chain resilience. So as an example of that, if certain supply chains are very concentrated in one or two countries, those are good supply chains for us to try to also get into the kingdom and to use the kingdom as a target to target broader areas of the globe. We want to develop integrated value chains and both locally and globally. And most importantly, we have a concept here called green shoring. And what is green shoring? Green shoring is with the need for lower carbon footprints these days and ESG investing. The kingdom offers clean and green energy to manufacturers so they can come and take advantage of the kingdom's clean energy sources and be closer to the clean energy sources and cost-effective energy sources. So that I think addresses the first part of the question. The second part of the question, the Vision 2030 aims to diversify the Saudi economy and to diversify away mainly from the oil and gas and petrochemical sectors. So GSRI targets many sectors that are historically not present in the kingdom. And so it's completely consistent with the vision and diversification of the economy and attracting foreign direct investment into the kingdom.
In fact, let me then also ask you the role that you see India playing as far as this major initiative that Saudi Arabia is now coming out with.
Extremely important. As you may be aware, one of our announced transactions today was with a large Indian group, and we're very excited about that. But India is a key trading partner of the kingdom, always has been, and we anticipate that it always will be. And so the more we can attract Indian companies to produce here, to use Saudi Arabia as a base, the more that our relationship will just continue to strengthen. It's already extremely strong and growing. India is one of our largest trading partners. I believe also Saudi is in the top 5 trading partners with India. And we hope that relationship will continue to expand. And we encourage Indian companies to come and to explore using the kingdom as a hub to benefit from our competitive advantages that we discussed earlier.
Mr. Hamsa, we are talking because India sees itself to play a significant role in this region, in the Middle East, in West Asia. It's not just about trade, it's about a larger role that India envisages for itself. And for that, IMEC is extremely important. I want to ask you, what are your thoughts when it comes to the India-Middle East corridor, its significance for the region and for the India-Saudi Arabia relationship as well?
IMEC is extremely important from a number of aspects. It stands for India, Middle East, Europe corridor, and it aims to connect India, Saudi Arabia, and Europe in, I think, 3 main areas. One is data and data cables. And we're already quite active in that regard. And there's a number of projects connecting Europe with the kingdom for high bandwidth subsea cables. And I expect that those cables will continue eastward and connect to India as well. So that's number one priority, especially with the AI revolution that's going on these days. The second area is logistics. And that's connecting India with Europe through Saudi Arabia, possibly through a rail network which will shorten the transport time between India and Europe significantly. I think something like 12 days, but that's very important. And finally, we're connecting East and West with energy through subsea power cables, and that's very critical to the kingdom. We have a huge program of renewable energy, and we would love to connect East and West to be able to give our clean energy to the world. And India, of course, is a very important part of that. So that's all extremely consistent with what IMEC is all about. And the Global Supply Chain Resilience Initiative is focusing on electrification, copper and copper cables, data center infrastructure, and the like. So it kind of very consistent with the themes identified in IMEC.
All right, Mr. Hamsa. Thanks much for breaking that down for us. Of course, it's much more than just economic partnerships and trade partnerships, but that's pretty much at the heart of this relationship. Thanks much for taking out the time. All right, we slip into a very short break. We come back on the other side and talk more about Trump's House of Hawks. He's filled his team with China hawks. What does it mean for New Delhi and the Washington-New Delhi relationship? We come back and talk more. Stay with us.
Do you like this?
Oh, nice. अरे but तुम्हारी friend शनाया के पास भी तो यही है. I doubt you'll wear the same stuff.
शनाया का बीच वेयर. तुम्हें कैसे पता?
Got trust issues, huh? You can shop at India's trusted electronics store, Vijay Sales. Trust matters.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
It was the grand launch of NDTV World by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. NDTV World, as he laid out his vision for the India century at the NDTV World Summit.
ऐसी सदी जिसमें भारत के प्रयासों से दुनिया में स्थिरता आए.
In the presence of those who are shaping our future.
मेरी तरफ से आपको ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं हैं.
NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
This week on India Ascends.
India-Bangladesh ties amid Yunus government's crackdown on Hindus' ISKCON. Nepal's Prime Minister shatters China's debt trap. Why nations are shunning the BRI. Team Trump's economic plan decoded. And Saudi Arabia's Faysal Hamsa decodes the next phase of New Delhi-Riyadh partnership and the IMEC project.
All this and more only on India Ascends with me, Gaurie Dwivedi, at these timings on the NDTV network.
Becoming a member of jury of NDTV was a totally different challenge altogether.
When you recognize contribution to society, these stories are inspiration for everyone who views them.
The NDTV Indian of the Year is an extremely important initiative.
Nominees were just extraordinary.
Each one of them is a rock star.
And the achievers in this field who are inspiration for the Indians in this country have been chosen for this prestigious award.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country.
Welcome back to watching India Sense. Now we focus on President-elect Donald Trump's dream team, which is now pretty much in place. And a look at his economic team pretty much gives an idea of how he plans to carry forward the economic promises he made on the campaign trail. It's full of China hawks, which means he's going to have a very strong stance when it comes to China. But will that give an opportunity to New Delhi, whether in terms of tariffs? Could that be in terms of decoupling? Could that just be in terms of a much stronger posturing against China? Take a look at this report that decodes that for you in terms of what could be the New Delhi-Washington economic relationship under Trump 2.0.
Trump's House of Hawks is now almost complete. Kevin Hassett, pick from Trump 1.0 and a known votary of tax cuts, has been announced as Director of National Economic Council. And Jamieson Greer has been picked to be the trade representative. With Canada, Mexico, and China accounting for 41% of U.S. trade, bulk of Greer's tariff salvo will be directed towards these countries. In fact, Greer's thoughts on China are both radical and maverick, like expansion of export controls from semiconductors to other tech areas, revocation of China's permanent normal trade relation status, and stronger investment controls. While most of them will not translate into U.S. policy, the hawkish position is indicative of the broad direction of Trump 2.0. And India will not go unscathed, especially since Trump termed India as tariff king, but India has reasons to be less wary. Greer is also championing decoupling from China, a move that could provide a major flip to India to be part of global supply chains. An imminent trade war may also be short-lived since, as per Goldman Sachs, it will push up personal consumption expenses by almost a percentage. For Trump, tariffs will also be a negotiating tactic, one where New Delhi is best not part of.
All right, now the second inside story on the show, which is, well, as far as China's dream project is concerned, or Xi Jinping's dream project is concerned, BRI, why are countries rejecting it? Nepal being the latest. KP Sharma Oli has said that he will not sign any BRI projects. Why? Because those loans are expensive. But Nepal is not alone. There is a growing list of nations that are shunning the Belt and Road Initiative. It's in fact unraveling. Why is that happening, and how does it impact China? Take a look at this report.
In a world where financial highways crisscross continents, China's Belt and Road Initiative, or the BRI, has once again heralded a golden road to prosperity. But today it finds itself in troubled waters. The promise, infrastructure development, investment and trade for developing nations across Asia, Africa and beyond. The reality, a growing chorus of critics from Global South accusing Beijing of creating a debt trap that could leave countries at risk of losing control over their sovereignty. Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli recently made waves, shattering the myth of Chinese economic benevolence. Oli declined. He would not sign any new loan agreements under the BRI using his official visit to Beijing this December. His words came as a warning bell for other nations already walking the fine line between economic growth and financial ruin. Nepal joins a growing list of countries skeptical of China's financial offers, seeing the BRI not as a lifeline but as a potential burden. In fact, Nepal isn't the only nation pressing the brakes. Brazil, the giant of South America, has now joined India in rejecting China's ambitious project. After India's refusal, Brazil became the second BRICS country to sidestep the BRI, a clear sign that even emerging economies are waking up to the risks of Chinese debt diplomacy. A stark warning from the International Monetary Fund has echoed across the Indian Ocean as the Maldives faces the perilous edge of a debt crisis, warning the country of high debt distress due to its growing reliance on Chinese loans. With Ireland sinking under the weight of mounting bills, the IMF calls for an urgent policy adjustment before it's too late. For many, the dream of a prosperous future is turning into a nightmare as countries find themselves chained to loans they can't repay. China's Belt and Road Initiative, once a beacon of global connectivity, may now be seen as a dangerous game of high-stakes geopolitics where the cost of entry might just be too high.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Sense. Thanks so much for watching. Hello and welcome to India Sense, where I speak with global opinion makers.
The United States has made a strategic decision over the last 20 years to move closer to India.
Now, a $7 trillion economy seems a perfectly conceivable number.
If you want to be a national party, it's that you sort of accept the way the world is rather than want to endlessly hark back to how it was.
Modi is promoting the digitization of the economy, which is accelerating growth in the country.
New day, new show, a new experience. Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter
and impact your lives.
News that informs and keeps you ahead. From Maximum City, Mumbai,
to the seat of governance, Delhi,
NDTV brings to you the best breakfast show. The breakfast show only on NDTV 24/7 every morning at 8 a.m.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora, we cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Do you like this?
Oh, nice. अरे but तुम्हारी friend शनाया के पास भी तो यही है. I doubt you'll wear the same stuff.
शनाया का बीचू है. तुम्हें कैसे पता?
Got trust issues, huh? You can shop at India's trusted electronics store, Vijay Sales. Trust matters.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
It was the grand launch of NDTV World by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. NDTV World, as he laid out his vision for the India century at the NDTV World Summit.
ऐसी सदी जिसमें भारत के प्रयासों से दुनिया में स्थिरता आए.
In the presence of those who are shaping our future.
मेरी तरफ से आपको ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं हैं.
NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
This week on India Ascends.
India-Bangladesh ties amid UNIS government's crackdown on Hindus' ISKCON. Nepal's Prime Minister shatters China's debt trap. Why nations are shunning the BRI. Team Trump's economic plan decoded. And Saudi Arabia's Faysal Hamsa decodes the next phase of New Delhi-Riyadh partnership and the IMEC project.
All this and more only on India Ascends with me, Gaurie Dwivedi, at these timings on the NDTV network.
Becoming a member of jury of NDTV was a totally different challenge altogether.
When you recognize contribution to society,
hello and welcome to the Southern View. I'm Veera Raghav. Lots lined up this Friday evening, but first the headlines we're tracking this hour. In an NDTV exclusive, former Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy categorically and emphatically rejects the US charges against the Adani Group, reiterates that there was no question of the group's involvement in the agreement between two government entities. Ministry of External Affairs says the Indian government had not been informed in advance by the United States of the indictment of Gautam Adani and others from the Adani Group. The family of the woman Air India pilot who was found dead reject that it was a case of suicide. The pilot's boyfriend is sent to police custody till Monday. The Bengaluru police arrest the accused in the murder of 19-year-old woman at a service apartment in the city. He was arrested near the Bengaluru airport. Cyclone Fingal to cross the Tamil Nadu coast by tomorrow as the deep depression in the Bay of Bengal intensifies into that cyclonic storm. A heavy rain alert remains in place for some coastal and delta districts of the state. The IMD issues advisory for fishermen. Well, the top focus this evening. Former Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh and YSRCP Chief Jagan Mohan Reddy joined the list of political leaders categorically and emphatically rejecting the charges in the US against the chairman of the Adani Group, Gautam Adani, his nephew Sagar Adani and Vineet Jain. In this NDTV exclusive, Jagan Mohan Reddy reiterated that there was no question of any bribes paid in India and that the agreement was between two government entities and that no question of involvement of a third party in these transactions. Remember, the DMK, which is a crucial ally of the INDIA alliance, had also categorically stated that there was no commercial relationship between the Adani Group and the Tamil Nadu government. The Biju Janata Dal, which was in power in Odisha, also rejected the allegations and the charges. Let's first listen in to Jagan Mohan Reddy, who spoke exclusively to NDTV's Uma Sudhir a short while ago.
So I'm with former Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Mr. Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy. During your tenure as Chief Minister 2021, this deal that was signed for a power sale agreement, the allegation being that there were certain bribes that were paid to you and to others, not to you specifically. Your name is there and Andhra Pradesh officials is mentioned. How do you explain that?
There's no, my name is not mentioned anywhere. It's only that what is mentioned in that, whatever reports that at least have come to the light, it's all hearsay. And whatever I gathered, my name is not mentioned anywhere, except for the fact that Gautam Adani met me, and only after that this translated into, consummated into power sale agreement is what I think is what is broadly captured.
Yeah. It mentions that you had a meeting with Mr. Adani in the month of August.
What is wrong in it? In fact, I would have met Adani. Why only confine yourself only to our meeting in August? See, since 2019, after I had been elected as the Chief Minister, I met multiple business people. I mean, people that, I mean, that's the job of that is one of the duties of the Chief Minister as the head of a state, to meet business people and also address their issues. If somebody wants to come and invest in Andhra Pradesh state, if they're not going to meet the chief minister and get comfort from the fact that the head of the state is proactive, nobody would come and invest. And that is why we actually, every state is competing and organizing industrial summits, and that is why every state is competing with each other.
So you're saying there is no connection between the meeting in August and the deal that was signed with the central government organization in December?
Absolutely. In fact, from 2019 to my end of my tenure, I would have met Gautam Adani at least 5-6 times. I mean, why only specify your date only as August? After August also, I would have met him multiple times, and before August also, I would have met multiple times, and I would have met so many industrialists. This is, as I've said, this is one of the duties of the chief minister as the head of the state.
So that agreement that was entered into, why did you feel the need to go for 7,000 megawatts of an agreement in the solar energy sector for a 25-year period?
See, basically this has got nothing to do with Adani or anybody else. First of all, that's one very important aspect that one should never forget. See, how did this actually originate? See, on September 15th, SECI, which is a central government entity, that is, central government writes to a state government, and in that letter from the central government entity, they very clearly mention that they appreciate the fact that whatever we are doing for the upliftment of farmers without further burdening the DISCOMs, while they appreciate the fact that whatever we're doing, and also they go one step further and say that we have also noticed the recent tenders that have been called by the state government for a 6,400 megawatt capacity, and we've also noticed that the least rate that you had obtained in those tenders was ₹2.49. And they came forward and they said, we are willing to offer you at the same ₹2.49, which was discovered as the least rate in your tendering process. So if you're willing to take power from us, we are willing to supply that power to you at that very same rate of ₹2.49 at your doorstep, with waiving off as a special incentive, giving you the interstate transmission charges waiver. And that was the content, that was the contents of the letter from SECI. Now you tell me, see, this would actually give us a saving of 4,000. I mean, that's exactly why we had gone for tendering first place, because we wanted to reduce the rate of procurement costs. Our average procurement cost is ₹5.10. So the only way we could reduce the cost and give farmers, in fact, Andhra Pradesh is one state which gives farmers free power. And it's not sustainable until and unless something drastic is done. So the only way something drastic could be done is to ensure that we bring in solar power at affordable, very, very cheap rates, and we actually are in a position to give this power to the farmers during the daytime. And that was the vision with which we started off. Then we floated tenders in the state of Andhra Pradesh. And then we had for 6,400 megawatt. And then, unfortunately, the tendering process was stuck up in courts. In the meanwhile, while that was stuck in the courts, maybe 10 months after that, in the meanwhile, we received this letter exactly giving us the same benefit of ₹2.49 per unit they're willing to supply, and which is also apparently the cheapest rate of power Andhra Pradesh has ever procured. It is the cheapest rate of power Andhra Pradesh ever procured, at ₹2.49. And that ₹2.49 comes to us. Then how can any state government set aside a letter like that? I mean, if I were to set aside a letter like that, you would immediately comment, people like you would immediately criticize me and say, because it is central government, and central government gives you such a phenomenal offer, because it is central government, you set aside, because you have ulterior motives that you want to buy power from other private people. That's what you would say. All what we did was we just responded positively to the offer made by the central government, that is SECI.
Jagan Mohan Reddy there categorically reiterating that the deal was beneficial for the government and that there was no question of an involvement of any third player. So from those categorical rejection of charges in the US by top political leaders from all sides of India's political spectrum, what's the big takeaway? Joining me this evening, noted columnist Rajat Sethi and Sanjay Asher, senior partner at Crawford, Bailey and Co. Sanjay, first to you. You heard what Jagan Mohan Reddy was saying there. His point is A, that the deal itself was beneficial for the state government, and B, that there is no question of an involvement of a third party in that transaction.
If that be so, then the charges would not sustain at all against anybody. Forget the Adani group, but it would not sustain against anybody as far as India is concerned, because Mr. Jagan Reddy has very categorically and clearly, in no uncertain word, has said that 2.49 was beneficial to the farmers and beneficial to the states.
Right, that's an important point that you underline there from Jagan Mohan Reddy's comment there in that interview to Uma Sudhir. Rajat, you've had the DMK categorically say that there was no commercial relationship, there was no commercial transaction. You've got the BJD distancing itself, rejecting the charges in the US. Jagan Mohan Reddy now categorically making his point. Increasingly, the Congress is isolated on this issue at a political front. What's the big takeaway from these comments to you?
I just heard the DMK spokesperson, party spokesperson, also asking the Congress to please spare them. Neither has the Congress's biggest ally, the Sharad Pawar's NCP, also associated itself with the Congress party. So politically, till the point that there is no clear evidences to establish a quid pro quo, all the charges that has been, that the Adani Group has been accused of, will not stand light of the day. But primarily, we saw that certain investors, global investors, also would have made money around the time when this news was flashed. Now that the dust has settled and is settling in the process, we are seeing that the share market is also responding, and all the group enterprise companies are now back to where it all started from. So my point is that, first of all, corruption is a very serious accusation, and clear charges have to be established through irrefutable evidences. Either the US courts or the US Department of Justice put forth that in the interest of the investors, or the Indian agencies, investigative agencies, should unearth that. The Congress party, therefore, should rely, instead of, there are some opposition leaders who are requesting the US Department of Justice as if their primary allegiance is towards the US institutions and not Indian institutions. Instead, they should look up to the Indian institutions to look at any evidences that the US government provides. So far as I'm aware, or the news media is aware, there is no tangible evidence which has been handed over officially to the Indian government to look into. Without that, these remains plain paper accusations.
Sanjay, Rajat making that point, as well as several top legal minds, including the former AG, have made the point that there are several loopholes and in that indictment in the US. For the benefit of the viewers, could you just explain why there are absolutely no bribery charges there?
Yeah, from the on the basis of whatever is available on record, there do not appear to be any charges for bribery, and therefore, it will be completely unfair to the Adani Group or on the persons on whom allegations have been made to unnecessarily being made a scapegoat at this juncture. Because if the political leaders, as also the legal experts, have clarified that, look, there are no charges as such against the Adani Group. So where is the question of unnecessarily dragging this and making the individuals scapegoat in all this?
And what's the legal way forward?
Legal way forward will be in case whatever the US Department of Justice takes action, one will have to defend on the basis of what against whom the allegations have been made.
And Rajat,
because
in terms of the politics of it, do you see... Go ahead, Sanjay. Sorry.
No, I'm only saying if somebody initiates a legal action, okay, one will have no choice but to defend it. Okay, and therefore, the persons against whom the legal action may be initiated will have no choice but to defend it.
Important point that you're making there. So, Rajat, from we just discussed about, you just made a point about the Congress as well. What's the political way forward here in terms of the fact that, look, categorical rejections coming from across the political spectrum, from all sides of it, in terms of, should this just be left to be an issue that's to be dealt at the US courts and not to be taken up as a political issue here?
So, no, by all means, I mean, if the Congress party,
I think you're on mute,
whosoever in the opposition is of the view that they are holding on to certain evidences, they should present it before the courts, but they should reach out to the Indian institutions. Indian courts are always open, and more so for the opposition, and they have some of the finest lawyers. They can actually put those evidences, if they have any, before the courts, and let the courts and the investigative agencies operate. Even previously, during the Hindenburg crisis, it was the Supreme Court under whose monitoring the SEBI was looking into the matter. Now it's another matter if the opposition wants to come out and say, I do not trust in Indian Supreme Court and I do not trust in Indian SEBI. I would rather trust in DOJ and SEC. Then what do you say to that? My simple point is, go after anybody, any power in India, within our jurisdictions, get the evidences together if you have any. Ask your friends in the US, get those evidences, table it. It would do justice to Indian domestic investors as well. But plain speaking and mudslinging is not something that behoves the opposition, because they've done this. It's a repeated script. We saw this script unfold in various public elections as well. The public has responded that they do not believe in this. A similar accusation was even made during the Maharashtra Dharavi project. But see, public will only get swayed, investors will only get swayed when there is irrefutable, evidences which connect bribery to the Adani Group or individual leadership or executives within the Adani Group. And this is why the Japanese have responded, the Japanese investors and the banks there have responded with great amount of confidence. So where does this leave the US financial system with? They are a confused lot. A lot of investors right now, I'm hearing, they are confused because their State Department has rushed into something and now their hands are tied. They cannot make investments where they can generate returns for their shareholders, and they are stuck. Now, my problem is that I don't even know if the DOJ is going to take this entire case seriously after the regime changes in another couple of months. We just don't know what's going to happen. So you put so many things in the lurch. There is just no look. There's this wait period of 2 months, which we'll all have to wait, and every single retail investor will have to bear the burden of this DOJ's accusation paper.
Right. Important points that you're making there.